Alrighty, so Floor 2 has been out for almost 2 weeks already, and many of the secrets in the game have been discovered and interpreted. However, there's one secret, one big one, which although I have seen been talked about, nobody has been able to figure it out, at least to my knowledge. This secret involves a unique collision of lore theorizing as well as just general speculation of what's to come, and it's centered around two entities who you'd never expect to be related in a million years, those being El Goblino and Snare, of all things. Today, I'd like to discuss probably one of the biggest secrets to come out of Floor 2 in Roblox stores, as well as how I believe it leads to the reveal of the potential big bad boss in Floor 3. So, with all of that being said, let's begin. Alrighty, so our big secret starts with Room 152, aka Jeff's shop, in the mines. Now, one of the key features of this area is the giant vine holding up a lamppost, which is located in the very back of the room. Now, to the average player, this may just seem like a simple decoration, and for quite a while I actually believed it was. However, there is another character in this room, that being El Goblino, brought it up in conversation. Now, something you should all know about El Goblino is that despite his fun personality, he's one of the most important characters in the game, at least when it comes to the lore. One of the key traits of El Goblino is that he tends to alert players of secrets in the game. For example, not only does he hint players about the existence of Dread, but he also hints us about the room's sub-level entrance, as well as many other things. So, for El Goblino to mention this vine in the back of room 152, it has to be important, but for what? This is where I've seen most people get stuck. We know based on El Goblino's dialogue that this vine is important, but how is it relevant? Well, our first clue to answering this question comes from the fact that this isn't the only time we have seen this vine. You see, if you look in the out-of-bounds area in the courtyard, you can see this vine just chilling out there too. This implies that this vine itself is very large, stretching from the hotel all the way to the mines, or it implies that the vine is sentient and is able to move, hence why before it was seen in the courtyard and now it's seen in Jeff's shop. So, which is it? Well, it's actually both of these possibilities. They are both true, at least that's what I theorize. You see, it's time we introduced our second player into this theory, that being Snare. Now, Snare itself really isn't that interesting. They are a plant-like entity found in the courtyard as well as the greenhouse, and their main purpose is to stun you if you step on them, which created a challenge as Rush can start attacking you whilst you are stuck in a snare. However, what is really interesting about Snare is that from a lore standpoint, they are very similar to Seek. Now, in case you weren't aware, the Seek we are all familiar with, this humanoid figure, isn't actually Seek. Seek itself is this giant mass of black goop and eyes, and this goop is able to mold and distribute itself into everything. So, the humanoid Seek is only just a small part of the entire entity, and Snare actually works similar to this. Based on a message from the developers, Snare isn't just multiple entities, but rather a single entity with traps poking out of the ground, all interconnected through a giant series of vines. Now, I think you might be able to see where I'm going with this, but I believe that this vine seen in the courtyard as well as Jeff's shop is actually a part of Snare. It is the vine which interconnects all of the individual traps. Now, I know this may seem like a stretch, seeing how the vine and the snare look nothing alike, but this seems to be the best possible explanation of how the vine is relevant to the overall story of Doors. Furthermore, the vine's close proximity to the greenhouse could further prove this theory, as it would make sense if the traps themselves were located nearby the thing which interconnects them all. Additionally, it does appear that the spikes are coming out of the vine, which would further connect it to snare traps, as they also have spikes which they use to stun their victims. So, now that we know, well, at least theorize that the vine and snares are connected, what does this have to do with a new Floor 3 boss? Well, this is where more of the speculation part of this theory comes into place. You see, in Floor 2, we essentially had to battle against two versions of Seek, the humanoid version, which was present during the chase sequences, as well as the true form of the entity, which was the Room 200 boss. Now, given how Snare is very similar to Seek in the sense that there is an individual as well as an amalgamation version of the entity, I believe that this same scheme will play out. We have already been exposed to the individual version of Snare, so it is only a matter of time before we see the true form of the entity, which will involve this strange vine we have been seeing popping up around the game. Additionally, the reuse of garden areas in Floor 2 further prove how plants in nature are somehow important to the game, so I don't think it would be too odd to assume these might be hints towards a potential snare boss in the next floor. However, if there was going to be a snare boss, what would it look like? Well, based on the message from the developers, we know it would appear to be an interconnected series of vines. But would there be anything else? After all, although a giant web vine boss would be pretty cool, there could be a central structure or something like a face, so it'd be more recognizable. Well, I actually do have an idea of what this boss could look like, besides just being a giant tangle of vines. You see, I believe that in addition to having a bunch of vines, the snare boss would be a Venus flytrap, or something similar to it. Not only do flytraps function similarly to snare, where they actively hunt and catch their prey, but a Venus flytrap model was actually leaked a while back for Doors. Well, at least based on the Doors leaks video I saw. So, I theorized that the giant snare boss will in fact be revealed to be a Venus flytrap. Anyways, that was essentially everything I wanted to say in this video. To summarize, based on El Goblino's dialogue, we know that the vine that appears in room 152 has to be important somehow. I theorized that this vine is actually a part of Snare, and that it is hinting towards a much larger snare boss which will appear in the future floor. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of this theory in the comments, and with all of that being said, thank you all for watching and I hope you enjoyed.